Thousands of years ago, the world did not belong to man. The night was his enemy. A cloak of shadows, where invisible predators stalked, waiting for the perfect moment to attack. There were no walls. There were no safe havens. Only the fire sizzling in the dark separated the first humans from the jaws of what happened. But they were not alone. There in the gloom, a pair of bright eyes watching were not those of an ordinary hunter. This one did not hide in the under, waiting for the moment to attack. Remained close. Too close. Its fangs were sharp. On male instinct. But something about him was different. Did not run away from the fire. Did not fear human presence. On the contrary, he seemed to be studying them. Was not yet a dog. But it was already on its way to becoming one. While the wolves of his pack kept away from each other, he was approaching. First, stealing food scraps. Then following the trail of humans. When they moved from place to place, it was not an act of submission. Was of convenience. And humans soon realized that this nocturnal visitor brought more than just hunger. Because, as predators approached the camp, when the threat was about to attack, since the disappearance, he did not flee. Grunted, bristling. Warned. And when the night passed and the danger vanished, humans began to understand. This strange wolf is not only foraging for food, was protecting them. Was not a pet. Was not a slave. Was an ally. One who, without knowing it, was about to become the first guardian of humanity. That first night was just the beginning. At the beginning, the relationship between humans and wolves was not written in stone. There were no contracts, promises, or bonds of affection. Only need. Humans offered security, warmth, and food. In exchange, the most cunning wolves offered something that no other animal could give them. Constant surveillance, hunting instinct, and above all, loyalty to the group. Over time, one of these wolves stopped lurking in the distance, came closer to the fire, let humans touch them, that their young were born within the circle of the tribe. So generation after generation, those wolves stopped looking like their ancestors. Their bodies became more compact, and its more refined instinct. They were no longer just opportunistic scavengers, were housemates and sentinels in the night. The first human settlements witnessed this change. When men began to cultivate the land, their guardians evolved with them. Now, they not only warned about predators, also protected crops, protected domesticated animals, and defended the limits of their territories. Thus was born a silent pact that would forever change the history of mankind. They were no longer wolves or wild beasts, but neither are simple domesticated animals. Were something more, were protective, and in them began to be forged one of the most impressive forces that nature has created: the guardian dogs. The Assyrians left nothing to chance. His empire was built with blood, discipline, and a relentless military strategy. Every warrior, every weapon, every wall had a purpose. And among its ranks, there was a soldier who did not wield a sword, but which instilled the same terror in the enemy. The Assyrian mastiff. These dogs were not toy guardians, nor simple sentinels, were beasts selected and bred for war. Their bodies were massive. Its dense musculature, thick cut-resistant skin, trained from puppies to withstand the noise of combat, to launch against the enemy without hesitation, to bite and not to let go until his opponent was on the ground. In battles, marched together with the Assyrian warriors, with iron necklaces and reinforced leather armor, were the first line of attack, sent before the soldiers to spread panic in the enemy ranks. A single mastiff could knock down an armed man, smash his chest, or tear their asses apart in a matter of a second. They did not turn back. They did not have the pain. They knew of only one order to attack. But its function did not end on the. In times of peace, these dogs patrolled the cities and the palaces of the Assyrian elite. Any stranger who tried to paint the walls without permission, I could not find a warning. Only a quick death between sharp fangs. The scariest thing about these mastiffs was not their strength, nor its ferocity, was his loyalty. Did not kill by instinct, they did it for obedience. Were creatures forged in duty, trained to defend their master, to the last breath. For the Assyrians, these dogs were not only animals, were living weapons, relentless guardians of an empire, who never tolerated weakness. When Rome expanded, did so with the precision of a war machine. Did not conquer with speed, but with strength and strategy. And among its most feared weapons, in addition to its legions, there was a creature that the barbarians learned to fear. The Roman Molossians. These dogs were not just guardians, were short-haired giants, with a bite capable of pulverizing bones in seconds, bred from the war dogs of Epirus, and refined by the Romans, became a tool of destruction. With spiked necklaces and reinforced leather breastplates, marched alongside the soldiers, ready to chaos when ordered to do so. In combat, the Molossi were launched against enemy formations. Before the clash of the troops, did not attack randomly. Their training allowed them to shoot down horses, tearing limbs and tearing limbs, with frightening precision. In the Colosseum, its ferocity turned into a spectacle. Were soldiers against gladiators, prisoners and wild beasts. Their roars were mixed with the screams of the crowd, turning them into part of the bloody training of the time. But its role was not limited to war and the Colosseum. The Molossi also protected the caravans, carrying gold, spices and slaves along the vast routes of the empire. On the roads infested with bandits, one dog could be a difference between a safe journey and a deadly assault. Even in times of peace, these dogs were considered too valuable to leave them unused. In the Roman villas, guarded the homes of the wealthiest, patrolling the grounds with the same determination as on the. When Rome fell, its empire was left in ruins, but their dogs survived. His blood mixed with that of other European races, giving rise to one of the guardians, most iconic in history. And with the arrival of the Middle Ages, his protective instinct found a new purpose. Walled cities and fortified castles became the norm. Violence was part of everyday life. Bandits the roads. Heroes lurked in the shadows. And rival armies mercilessly plundered territory. In that world without respite, protective dogs became the last line of defense. High in the mountains, female monasteries trusted thick-coated mastiffs to secure its doors. In the fiefs, the gentlemen trained huge dogs who patrolled the boundaries of their lands, ready to face any intruder. In the mirrors, the four-legged guardians not only protected fortunes, protected the lives of those who slept behind the walls. No era solo, their size or bite that made them fearsome, was on instinct, knew who belonged there and who did not. They did not need orders to act, did not give unnecessary warnings. On the periphery of medieval Europe, where betrayal could be on the other side of the door, these dogs were the last barrier between the security of death. The Industrial Revolution changed the world in a way that no one could have foreseen. Cities grew, factories replaced fields, and humanity left behind rural life into an era of progress and new dangers. The enemy were no longer invading armies, nor road looters. Now crime was moving in the shadows of urban streets. The warehouses, packed with merchandise, needed protection, and powerful families no longer trusted simple locks to protect their homes. Protective dogs had to adapt. Was no longer necessary to run at the head of a battle, nor that they defended medieval castles. Now his task was to watch relentlessly, to differentiate a legislator from an ally, and act accurately when the threat was real. It was then that selective breeding led to the birth of dogs, designed specifically for this new era. In Germany, Karl Fisch Louis Doberman, tax collector, understood better than anyone else the need for a protection dog who was more than just a guardian. Needed speed resistance, intelligence, and above all, controlled aggressiveness that was only activated in the face of danger. This is how the Doberman was born. A perfect surveillance machine. Was not only fast and strong, but their ability to make decisions made him a lethal guardian. Attacked not by impulse, but by calculation. I was waiting for the exact moment to act, and when I did, there was no escape. My interest tanto, other breeds, born of the ancient Roman war dogs, were consolidating their friendship. The Rottweiler, direct descendant of the Molossians, who once protected caravans of soldiers, found its place in the Industrial Revolution as the definitive guardian of goods and riches. Not only escorted cattle, but protected banks and warehouses, safeguarding money and goods from thieves that stalked in the growing anarchy of large cities. His muscular body and imposing character converted it in the nightmare of any intruder. But yes, the Industrial Revolution transformed protective dogs in urban guardians. It was war that turned them into heroes. When world conflicts broke out, dogs returned to this, not as attacking soldiers, but as essential elements for the survival of the troops. Were the eyes and ears in the dark, detecting explosives buried underground before men took a fatal step. were trackers, finding fallen soldiers. In the midst of the crossfire were messengers, crossing trenches in a hail of bullets to bring vital information to commanders. No longer only protected homes or patrolled factories, now protected lives in the hell of war. Its instinct, refined for millennia, would make them the difference between the safe return of a soldier or the tragedy of an ambush. They did not use weapons, but they were as lethal as any trained soldier. The world had changed, but the purpose of protective dogs, it was still the same: to monitor, and when necessary, you will fight in the end. Today, protective dogs are everywhere. In homes where they patiently monitor their families, always alert to any strange noise. On the streets, patrolling alongside officers, with a firm gaze that commands respect. In the fields, safeguarding land and livestock, frightening intruders with his mere presence. No longer march at the front of armies, nor do they wear armor, but its essence is still intact. Thousands of years have passed since that first wolf defied his instinct and approached the human fire. Since then, its purpose has never changed. We're sentinels in prehistoric times, warriors in ancient times, guardians in the Middle Ages, and defenders in times of war. Today, in the modern era, continue to be the first line of protection, no matter if it is against it in the night or a threat on the. What makes them exceptional is not just their strength. Neither its speed nor its agility is his unwavering loyalty, their willingness to face danger without hesitation, their instinct to know when to act and when to wait. Do not need orders to do their job. Are in their blood, printed in its history. Protective dogs are not just animals, are the guardians of our past, the sentinels of our present, and the silent warriors of our future. Protected us from the beginning of civilization, and will continue to do so until the end. Now tell me, do you have a guardian at home? What do you think it has been? The most impressive protective dog in history, and if you have one at home, let me know your name and race. And if you liked this video, I recommend you not to miss the one I suggest here. See you next time.